Chaplain Nelson here, and today I'd like to talk a little bit about anxiety and fear. It's one of the most common reasons that people say, "Hey Chaplain, got a minute?" So about 1 out of 4 of every "Hey Chaplain" conversations can be traced back to the unholy trinity of fear, anxiety, and worry. We Americans are an anxious society, partly because we're the land of opportunity. Our freedom guards against oppression, giving us free will to act and to choose as we see fit. Free will is a wonderful thing, but free will comes with a burden of personal responsibility. It's full of the what ifs and if onlys. What if I do this? What will happen? If only I'd done that, what would happen? What if I make a poor choice and it goes wrong? What if I hurt somebody? Now I'm worried about failures and missed opportunities. This is the reason that Soren Kierkegaard said, "Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom." So what are some of those dizziness things that we deal with every day? Well, I worry about my marriage, made mistakes in the past and hurt people. Now I can't forgive myself. I just found out that I can't stay in the military. I'm scared about what I'm going to do in the future. I'm afraid I can't. Worry I won't get better. I have to choose a new job, and I'm stressing about over what would be right for me. I'm anxious all the time, and I don't even know why. So from dizziness to insomnia, crying to panic attacks, there are many symptoms of anxiety as there are treatments. Relief from symptoms usually is only temporary unless we address the cause. Why do we get afraid? And why is it so difficult to shake certain fears? A chaplain's area's responsibility is the health of your soul. So here's the good news. Because fear cannot withstand a healthy soul. Here are some perspectives on fear and anxiety. It's exciting. It's a curious emotion. On our own terms, we seek out fear. We want to go to a scary movie. We go hang gliding. We go on roller coasters. We invite fear sometimes into our lives. But the moment we stop feeling in control, fear loses its appeal, and we want nothing to do with it. As you already know, inviting fear to leave isn't that easy. Fear always outstays its welcome. Personal experience, when I was much younger, I decided that I wanted to get photographed like a stuntman. So there's this walking bridge, and there's a creek below, and it's got rocks in it. One of my photographer friends, I said, "Hey, photograph me hanging off this bridge." So I climb over the edge, and I put one arm around the post there, and I swing out, and she photographs me. Well, there was a bolt that was sticking right into my sternum here, and as I tried to get up, I could no longer swing my leg back up on the bridge to the railing. So I'm trying, and my arm is getting tenser and tenser, and someone's walking by and said, "You need help?" And I said, "Yeah." Well, they're getting slow, and those rocks were a long ways down, as I had not thought before. In the end result, I did get back up, but my arm was dead for 3 days, no feeling in it. So no longer do I want to hang off of a bridge. Fear always outstays its welcome. It's immune to logic. It makes a bad listener, especially to legitimate reasons for you not to be afraid. Fear keeps you from seeking solutions or sources of hope. It lives in the future. For example, I was deployed in Watts with the National Guard. Well, 50 years later, there's still neighborhoods that I will not go into. It makes a bad prophet, especially when it comes to predicting things going wrong. It keeps you from acknowledging the horrible track record of predicting disasters. It's impatient. It makes a bad companion, especially when it requires dedication. Fear keeps you from tending to other people and problems in your life who need time and attention. Fear is used to being the boss, so putting it on hold is not easy. Fear has something to say. One mark of maturity is knowing which emotions to take sincerely and which ones you can safely ignore. Fear is good when fire is there. You don't want to run into a burning building. I mean, fire people do. It's never been an emotion that you can safely ignore. whether it's the amygdala telling you to run from a predator or your hippocampus telling you to take a closer look. Fear has something to say. Those big words just mean the front and the back of your brain. You need to listen to your fears. They have two things to say. What we value, fear tells us when we're vulnerable, or at least when we think we're vulnerable. It's the check engine light on your car that you need to acknowledge. More to the point, it signals dangers to the things and people we care about most. It's more we value something, the more we fear of losing it. I don't stay up all night thinking about your job, and you don't stay up all night stressing about my kids. We all have mutual concerns about each other's welfare, but those concerns will cripple us with stress or anxiety. The gap between fear and concern is a big one. Thankfully, our hearts only generate fear when our own world is at risk. That is the first reason we need to listen to fear. It tells you what matters most in your world. Want to know what really has your heart, or what you really think is irreplaceable? Fear will tell you. It will also tell you whom to trust when those valuable things get threatened. When our family, job, health is in danger, fear helps us spring into that action, protecting and providing whenever we can. If we can't do it ourselves, we can phone a friend or call in a favor. These are all healthy ways to respond to the threats in our backyard. Of course, there are times that we can't fix it, protect them, heal them, or solve the riddles that matter most. Then what? The fear on my dashboard won't go away until I've handed the threat off to someone more capable. But what happens if that person doesn't exist? This is the heart of the matter, and it's why listening to fear is so important to what it's telling you. It tells you whom, when, or what you trust when it matters most. We need to trust our fear, but fear robs our peace and joy. The antidote to fear is trust, but never trust your fears. They don't know your strengths. We've talked a little bit about fear, and then you say, well, how can I help myself? One thing is you have to face your fears. If you're always avoiding situations that scare you, you might stop doing the things that you really need to do by missing out in life. This means you won't be able to test whether or not the situations are as bad as you expect. You also miss the chance to work out how to manage your fears and reduce your anxiety. So anxiety is the problem to tend to increase if you get into this pattern. So exposing yourself to the fears can be an effective way of overcoming the anxiety. You can try setting yourself small achievable goals for facing your fears. I know we all do this, and I'm facing some of the same fears you are. You notice on Veterans Day, all the restaurants give you free meals on Veterans Day. So if you walk into a restaurant and you see all these veterans, they're walking around the restaurant looking for a place where they can all face the door. But what if you once in a while just didn't face the door, so you had your back to the door, even for a few minutes to see what was going on? That's one way to just kind of small step to face your fear. Another thing is to know yourself. Sun Tzu, we've heard about him, The Art of War. He always said, know yourself and know your enemy, and you'll win 100% of the battles. If you only know yourself 50%, if you know the enemy 50%, if you don't know either one, you lose every time. So fear is the enemy. Anxiety is the enemy. Know what your fears are. Know yourself. Know what the challenges are. And then you can try to learn more about your anxiety and fear. Keep an anxiety daily to note how you're feeling. What causes you to feel anxious and what happens. When you understand how anxiety affects you, you'll be better able to manage your feelings. You can carry with you a list of things that help you at all times when you're likely to become frightened or anxious. This can be effective in addressing the underlying beliefs that you are behind your anxiety. I remember I was held hostage for an hour and a half at gunpoint, and I didn't really have fear there. But then 2 weeks later, without knowing it, I was carrying $20,000 on my person, and one of my friends came up behind me and stuck his finger on my back, said, "Stick him up." Well, that created a big anxiety problem for the future. How does that relate into there? I had to work through that fear, and I had to address that fear. Small steps. Talk to a friend or family member. I know a lot of times we don't like to talk about stuff that happened in the past, but if you bottle it up, you become closed. It's not very uncommon to feel silly or ashamed of your fears and anxiety. This can lead to hiding what's going on in front of those that you're close to. I personally sometimes am closed. In fact, I just finished a session with one of my psychologists and I blurted it all out. Find somebody to talk to. There's no need to feel this way. You don't have to overcome your anxieties alone. Find somebody to talk it out. Exercise is another good way to work out. It builds endorphins. You don't have to lift 300 pounds, but walking's good. Anything that gets you moving. Relax. Find relaxed techniques, take breaths, deep breathing sometimes, anything like Tai Chi, yoga, mindful techniques. They all help relax us, get us into a state of calmness. Like I mentioned, breathing techniques. Try eating right. Cheeseburgers are great, but 3 times a day, not really good. Gives you too much blood sugar. I know that alcohol can be a problem. Drinking in moderation is okay, but sometimes when you feel nervous, some people call it Dutch courage, but it's not good for you. The after effects of alcohol can make you feel even more anxious. Faith and spirituality. Kierkegaard also said the absence of faith will make you crazy, but it helps you find God. There's some talking therapies, sometimes we have to have medication, see the doctor on that. Support groups are great. If you get with a group of like-minded people, sometimes you can open more with people that have been through the same thing that you have, rather than a stranger who has never been there. So those are just some of the things that you might be able to do to help yourself get a little more releasing into a more joyful and fun state of life. Get rid of some of those crappy feelings, if I can say that. So once again, let me end with, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace.